Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Design for Destiny. And surprise, surprise, yes, I am on video today. And twice a month, you all can expect me to keep being on video just to connect with you all further. So you guys can place a face to the voice. And I'm excited about just this new season. And so as you saw in the topic, we're going to talk about what it takes to get your first 10 clients. I feel like nobody really talks about this, honestly. And I know on my Instagram, I mentioned how to warm up your buyers before launching. But if you skip this part, and nobody really sits to tell you what it actually takes and what actually looks like to get your first client. And so I wanted to share my experience. I know everyone's launch is different. And I just wanted to give you some insight and ideas on how to position yourself to get your first clients. I am Chantal. This is Design for Destiny. If you're new here, I've been in the branding and business space for over 10 years, helped over 2,000 women online in their branding and design. And also marketing. I am very passionate about marketing. I'm very passionate about helping women to launch their God-given dream with confidence, because we need more kingdom builders in the marketplace making massive impact. And so I believe that that is my call and my purpose. And I'm excited to have you on this journey with me. And so let us talk about the myth of the overnight client, because it's a myth. A lot of us think that if our idea is good, if our branding is strong, and then if we launch, that just means that we will automatically generate revenue. How many of y'all know that that's false? The reason that this myth is so damaging is that because it's not true. Clients sometimes do not come immediately. Sometimes people launch and it's quiet. And the new entrepreneur can feel discouraged if, we don't manage our expectation well. Sometimes we may think when that happens that our offer is wrong or we didn't hear correctly or something is even wrong with ourselves, because we measure our week or launch week based on just the silence. And so I just want to encourage y'all. It's a part of the process. So getting your first 10 clients may take longer than you think. It is more hands-on than you think normally. And it almost never looks the way people promote it in their highlight reel. It's the truth, and that is completely normal. It's just literally just a part of the journey. And so I would encourage y'all, if you're in the point of quitting when you just launched, don't. It takes some time. Okay. And so I would like to share a little bit about my story personally when I just launched JOE Creative Lab, because I think my story is more relatable than people may expect. I did not launch to a warm audience or thousands. As I told you, the Lord gave me the idea. I thought it was crazy. He wanted me to quit my job. I had no experience in it. And, this is when social media just came around and I did not know what to do. I was still developing my skill. I had the desire to build something and help people and, to be honest, make money too, because that was an area that I was struggling with. And I, was confused on how to get people to pay for it. So I was on social media first, but then I discovered Upwork. So that's my story. I found my first clients on Upwork. And I know that's not the most glamorous origin story, but it is a true one. I created a profile, I put my work up, and I submitted proposals. Literal, actual proposals written specifically for each job, tailored to what the client was asking for. And in those proposals, I just demonstrated what I had actually read, what they needed, and had a real solution for it. And I didn't win all those proposals. No. In the beginning, the ratio of proposals submitted to responses I received was not encouraging. But here's the key. I kept going. Because I understood something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss. And that is sometimes your first yes may be the hardest yes. And every proposal I submitted, from my point of view, was practice for me. Rejection is not always bad. Rejection is, every job I did not get, it taught me something about how to better position myself for the next one. So that was my beginning. I was on Upwork, okay? But when I got my first client to say yes, I served them like they were the most important client ever, okay? Because they were, not literally, not because they paid me, even though it was good. I enjoyed being paid for my work. But it was because of what they represented. It was, for me, proof that someone would pay me for what I offered. And that gave me confidence. I was like, oh man, this person would pay me once, and there's someone else out there that will be willing to pay me as well. And that, in that moment, it affirmed to me that my business was real. And so, if you're in the beginning stage figuring things out, keep going, keep refining. Rejection does not mean your vision is not for you. It's just data. Okay. And so that first client for me became a repeat client. And that repeat client referred someone else. And that referral referred someone else. And you get the gist. Slowly, not overnight, not in a dramatic way, but steadily, my first 10 clients came. And hallelujah for that. Now, back then, viral post wasn't like a thing that people talked about a lot, not from a launch at least, but from proposals, from executing my service, and from showing up consistently, and from trusting the process long enough for it to produce something. Now, I do want to encourage someone, if you're in that mid right there, don't give up. Trust the process. I feel like there's a lot of new entrepreneurs that quit prematurely and miss out on the people that they're called to impact and the fruit that God wants to deposit in their lives because they quit prematurely. Like, don't quit. Trust the process. If the Lord gave you a business, it is meant to be fruitful, if you would just submit to the process. And so I am going to share a honest version of what it means to really get your first 10 clients, because based on my experience and based on watching women build in this community, there's a few things that you could get from this. So tip number 1 would be, you have to get them to come to you sometimes. Sometimes you actually have to position yourself to be found by them. And sometimes you just have to approach them. And this is a thing that most new entrepreneurs are not willing to do, because if we're being honest, that's scary. That can be. I know it always feels good for it to be inbound, meaning clients coming to you. You want people to find you. You want people to slide into your DMs. And when that does not happen, we can get discouraged. But in the beginning, sometimes you have to be the one to go out and get here first. And what does that look like in your business? That could look like pitching. That could look like reaching out. That could look like showing up in the spaces where your ideal client already is and raising your hand. And yes, y'all, I used to go networking. I used to do networking. And to be honest, through those relationships, I actually got referrals from there that helped to build my client base. But yours could be different. Yours could be a Facebook group, a networking event like I mentioned. It could be an old email. You can go into someone's DM, who may look like your ideal client, but the posture is the same. Go to them. You do not have to wait to be found, okay? Because if you be waiting, you may be waiting for a long time. So, do not be too proud to pitch. Don't allow discomfort of reaching out to stop you from building the thing that God gave you to build. The first 10 clients almost always require you to go first. Yeah, it's the truth right there. Okay? And now after that referral, the inbound starts to carry more weight, because in the beginning, you decided to go first. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about your portfolio. And so I see so many entrepreneurs literally just waiting until they have a full portfolio before they start pitching. You don't have to wait until your portfolio is full, but the thing is that your portfolio gets built by taking the first client, and the first client comes from pitching before the portfolio is complete. And so this is kind of like a chicken and egg situation that only gets resolved one way. And that's that by, starting before you're ready. Take that first project, do it excellently, document it. That is your first portfolio, take the second, do it excellently, document it. That is how your portfolio grows. And so if I could go back in time, that's one of the things I would adjust. I didn't really document my behind the scenes that much. And it wasn't like fully really needed back then because, Instagram was only pictures back then. But now we have video, But yes, you do not need 10 case studies before you pitch your first client. You just need to be able to demonstrate that you understand what they need and that you have the skill to deliver it. Start with that. Start with what you have, literally, and build the rest by doing the work. And then 3 is excellence with the first client is your most powerful marketing strategy. Yes, when you get that first client, be on time, okay? You want to do it for all your clients, but for your first client especially, yes, be good with your communication, be good with your delivery, actually follow through, because the standard you hold to yourself to, that is what gets you the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, because people talk. And the story of how you serve someone is the most compelling marketing you will ever produce. In the beginning of my business, J-Way Creative Lab, that used to be my slogan, serving with excellence or something like that. And I committed to that thing. If you were to hunt J-Way Creative Lab online, 5 stars. Mastery is actually a kingdom key to profitability, And so, yeah, make sure that you really value your first client and treat it excellently, because that is where your referrals and things will come through. And so another thing I want to recommend is managing your perception of visibility. Yeah, visibility alone is not enough to attract your first client. Yeah, you want to make sure that what you're putting out there, how you're positioning yourself online is actually appealing to someone who's looking for your services. And so I found that this part trips a lot of people up because they're posting, they're showing up, they're creating content consistently and still no clients. But the thing about that, when that happens, is that most times it's a clarity issue, not necessarily something is wrong with your business, because if your content is not clear about who it is for, then the offer is not specific enough for the problem it solves, and the messaging is trying to speak to everyone and landing with no one. Before you focus on posting more, get clear on one person you're talking to. That's one of the mistakes that I made. Think about one of the problems you solve for her, What is one outcome that you can deliver, And when that clarity is in place, your content starts to convert because the right person finally recognizes him or herself in it. And so I would say this to close out, and that is patience is a business strategy as well. I've been in business for 10 years and I've had to be really patient. It wasn't until I think year 5 that I actually made my first my first 6 figures, year 6. Then I made my multiple 6-figure years. And it took some time for me to get to the point of treating my business as a real business and not as a hobby. Get my systems in place, actually learn how to market. And once I had those foundational things in place, my business began to skyrocket in profitability. Okay. And so, yes, And that's actually why I created Design for Destiny, because I wanted to create that space to help people to expedite that process. So you don't have to make some of the mistakes that I made, and I can better guide you all on how to accomplish some of you all goal. And so I did not want to end this without saying this, and that is the seasons between launch and traction are where your faith in the callings get tested most directly, because it's easy to believe God gave you the vision when things are moving, right? It's harder to believe it when nothing seems to be moving and the silence is just so loud and the numbers are not validating your effort. I know what that feels like. But this is what I have learned, and that is that silence does not necessarily mean abandonment, right? The slow season is not a sign that you got it wrong. And the first client, whenever they come, if you trust the process, it's not luck, okay? It is a fruit of faithfulness, of showing up, of pitching when it felt pointless, and of serving excellently when no one is watching. And so I want to reaffirm to you that God does not give you vision and then abandon you. It's in the execution of it. He is in the details of the first 10 as much as he is in the breakthrough of the 100, okay? And the woman who trusts that, who keeps moving in faith even when the evidence is not there yet, is the woman who eventually has a testimony worth telling, okay? And so I want to encourage y'all to keep going. The clients are coming. And when they do, okay, serve them like the gift that they are, because they are gifts. And so, yeah, the truth about getting your first client, sometimes you have to go to them before they come to you. Your portfolio is built by doing, not by planning. Being excellent with client one is your most powerful marketing strategy. And being clear converts better than volume. And yeah, exercise patience, be active, be faithful, have consistent patience, because that's all strategy that almost no one is willing to use, but it always works. And so I want to encourage you to stay with it, go first, serve excellently, and trust God, okay? Trust that He gave you the vision to send the people who need what you carry. And so if this episode helped you, share it with a woman who is in her first 10 right now who may need to hear it. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or on this channel. Please do. And when you are ready to build a community with women who are doing this alongside you, head over to destinco.com. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.